All right, JP Football Fanatics fans, what is going on here? Everybody, this is your boy James here, back with you once again with another weekly recap video for you all. For this week, it is Week 7, the Week 7 recap for the 2023 NFL season. If that all sounds good, please be sure to drop a like on this video if you have not done so already. Also, be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and help the channel grow to be bigger and better than what it is already. We have 26 subscribers. I need more than that, guys. I want to try to build a bigger fan base, a bigger base in terms of people following in on all my things that I have posted here on JP Football Fanatics to be bigger and better than what it is already, and just help the channel grow overall, because I think that's just the most important thing for me, and I enjoy doing all this, and I want to be able to continue all that while this is all going on. So please be sure to drop that like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment down below too. Always looking for feedback, always looking for different ways of how to post videos in terms of podcasts and things of that nature. I like to try to really grow my channel to be better than what it is already. I like to be able to cover as much as I can on this kind of stuff, because this is a passion for me as it is for you. So if you're able to give me those suggestions and maybe some highlights, or in terms of like maybe some other video play of how this could be helped with me, that would be awesome. So please do me that favor, do all those things that I asked you to do. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As always, really does mean a lot when you do tune in to all of my podcasts and any videos that I post here on JP Football Fanatics. It's always an honor. It's always well appreciated by me. I enjoy doing this as much as you guys love watching it. So thank you so much for staying in tune for that, because it really does mean a lot. So Week 7 was a very interesting, very intriguing week for the 2023 NFL season. For Week 7, it was definitely was the worst pick, not worst pick, but the worst picks week that I did in terms of like picking straight up and everything. It was definitely one of the worst, maybe actually really was the worst that I've done so far, because there were quite a few upsets that happened within this weekend. Obviously, the Monday Night Football game was a big shocker too to a lot of people, so that also plays a big factor in that as well. So lot to talk about. So let's get ourselves going with it, and so that way I can help you guys out. Like I said, please be sure to help me all out. Watch everything that I have posted on here and help the channel grow to be bigger and better than what it is already. So that would be an honor for me. So let's get things started here, okay? So I created the slides for you like I do normally every single week. So that's one of the biggest things that really means a lot to me in terms of visual and helping the channel grow. So this is definitely a big factor for me. So here we go. Week 7 recap starts off with Thursday Night Football in the New Orleans Saints and the Jacksonville Jaguars game. This game was pure and simple. Derek Carr is not the guy for the Saints, and I don't think he's going to be the Saints quarterback after this season, just by the way that he's been playing. So when you kind of watch him, you kind of see what he does. You know what you're going to get out of him. You know he's going to be at times very conservative. You know his struggles are within the end zone. So you know there's going to be a lot of big factors that come into this game here in terms of how this game plays and everything. So, but this was definitely one of the worst Derek Carr performances of the season. Not because when you take a look at the status, not because it was terrible, but this game in particular, though, for Derek Carr, there could have been a lot of different ways of how the Saints could have approached this game. And with watching Derek Carr, and how conservative he's been this year, a lot of the play calls that Pete Carmichael, the offensive coordinator for New Orleans, has been able to draft up for Carr, has been very conservative, a lot of check down passes, and not a lot of deep ball throws. So when you see him throw the deep ball, it's obviously never pretty to see how that all comes about when he does throw the ball. It's not pretty, and it's not very accurate in terms of that. I know one of the plays in this particular game was the biggest one for that case was when he threw that ball to, it was supposed to go to Chris Olave. It was a deeper pass and then when you watch the film, you saw Derek Carr, he would get all bent out of shape about it because Olave, which is true. Olave really didn't run full force. He really didn't seem like he had a lot of gas in him to, or any effort in extending that play or anything of that nature. But you could just tell that he definitely was just not within that aspect of trying to make that catch right there. And while it wasn't a pretty pass from Carr, though, you would think that an offensive player like Olave, who's already one of the top wide receivers in the league, at least a top 15, maybe even a little bit higher than that, you would think that he would have been able to be at least more competitive, and that simply just was not the case in this matter. So unfortunate that this had to happen. Obviously it was not something that Carr wanted. And after the press conference, I know there was a lot of controversy between what Carr did and the things that he was saying about the team itself, and a lot of people saying that he didn't really take accountability for everything that went wrong in this particular game, in which I stuck in there and I was watching the game, a little bit, and I was watching the press conference afterwards. And, I think the first thing he kind of said too which was kind of interesting, was more of the effect that he really didn't want to, like, say that he was blaming anybody or make it seem like that he was blaming anybody. But it was more of like, he's trying to be like that guy that's, trying to not show his emotions that much, which is something that we've seen a lot of this year, was more of him stressing out the fact that, there's a lot of problems that go within this game that could have gone a lot of better ways. Defensively, didn't play all that great, and they've been at least a top 10 defense this year, or probably even a little bit lower than that, maybe just outside of the cusp of top 10 material. But their defense is very legitimate, and they've kept themselves in a lot of these games, in which the defense obviously really didn't do a good enough job of slowing down Jacksonville's inconsistent offense. Trevor Lawrence was able to do what he wanted to. Made some mistakes here and there, of course, but Travis Etienne is the best player right now in Jacksonville, and he's been the most consistent running back so far this NFL season. So he's been really helping out in terms of with me in fantasy football and everything, which is one of the leagues I'm in that case. But I think he's been more consistent than any of the passing attacks. Like, Trevor Lawrence hasn't really had the greatest season, or at least the greatest start of the season, but he's winning games. Defensively kind of picked it up a little bit, but they also kind of gave up some touchdowns towards the end there, where Carr had the ability to bring the Saints all the way back and help them, could have won that game for them if Foster Moreau did not tip that ball, and that would have sealed the deal. That could have forced the game into OT, or maybe even even a victory there if they decided to go for a two-pointer. But either way, though, really, this wasn't a great game for the Saints. We all know that. The Saints have been struggling this year mightily, especially offensively with Carr. I feel like at this point right now, and as much as I like Derek Carr, I will be the first to admit, like, I thought that the change of scenery away from the Raiders and away from McDaniels and Mark Davis, I thought that was going to be a change for someone like him who needed that change outside of the comfort zone. But of course, didn't work out in that way. Obviously, still not really playing very well, even with a coach like Dennis Allen, and of course in a game like that, where that your offense and your offensive coordinator is not going to really call a great game or anything like that, or an offensive coordinator that hasn't really called that many impressive plays for the team. A very conservative offense, which was something that we kind of saw a similarity to last year, although Andy Dalton, I felt, was better and more consistent with pushing the ball down the field than what we've seen with Derek Carr. So that's also something you have to consider there too. So I would not be opposed, if I was the Saints right now, knowing that we're 3-4, we're sitting right there where we have the advantage to win a division, which is the NFC South. We have that advantage to win the division, but we're not playing like it right now, and we're supposed to be the better team, which I do still think their defense is one of the better ones in this division, or at least one of the more talent on this team, at least, especially at quarterback with Derek Carr. This could be an idea of where they should be thinking about benching Carr and seeing what Jameis Winston could could do for this team. Now, obviously, Jameis Winston has played his time in New Orleans. He was traded from the Bucs. We know that. He was Drew Brees' backup for a year. Drew Brees retired. Jameis had his chance to start, ended up getting injured. And then last year, I think he only played like 2 or 3 games. I'm not sure on that, but if someone wants to fact check on that with me, go for it. But I'm pretty sure he only played at least like 3 games before Dalton came over, took over, which was the better option. I thought Andy Dalton was better than Jameis Winston, in my opinion. But I think at this point right now, you've got to really think about it in the sense of where you have to think about, you know, what's at stake right here right now. And that what's at stake right now is that you have a division title on the line, which you could easily win if things don't go your way. Like, obviously, Carolina's very bad. The Falcons are inconsistent, maybe a bit better than the Saints. But the Bucs also inconsistent too offensively, but have a strong defense. A lot of different ways of how you can look at this. So, yeah, it was definitely not a great night for the Saints. They still have opportunity to win games. I believe they're still going to win some games, but you know, obviously things have to change now before they get even uglier later on in the season. But Jacksonville had a pretty good game in this game overall. Nothing really to go too crazy about. There was a lot of good things to come about in terms of how this game went. But it was a good game overall. I thought the Jags were obviously the better team. They made this thing better. And I think the Jags will get themselves better. It seems like they're really getting things picked up at the right time, which is great to see. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Jags came out on top of the AFC South, although the AFC South is better than what we thought it was going to be really early in the season, which is amazing to really see because we didn't know how the division was going to be. We kind of thought this was going to be like a wide open opportunity for the Jags to go ahead and steal the division, but you know, with the Colts, with the Texans coming in there, playing hot right now. You know, the Texans especially, who are really good under C.J. Stroud, who's been a monster of a quarterback in this rookie season. You know, they could also sneak into a wild card spot if things work out in their favor. But yeah, I mean, the Jags right now are looking like they should win the division right now. They're looking like they're on pace to pick up some more wins and looking a bit more consistent than what they did earlier in the year. So, as far as Derek Carr goes and the Saints, you know, we'll see what happens. They have to go in next week and, you know, play whoever they got to play next. I believe they play the Colts, which is going to be a trap game for them. And then the Jags come in and play the Steelers. So that will be a big test right there to play the Steelers in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field. That's going to be a tough game to analyze there. So, that's the review for that game. Didn't watch too much of this one, but I'll talk about it. The Falcons ended up winning this game on a last-second field goal from Younghoe Koo. The Falcons beat the Bucs. It was 16-13 in this particular game. You know, they could have won this game by a touchdown. When you kind of take a look at it, you know, there was a play on there with Drake London who leaped over for a touchdown there that could have really said a lot of different things. That could have really been a big difference maker if London was there and he could have passed the ball, or excuse me, he would have been able to at least, you know, cross the ball over the line and everything. You know, that could have been a big possibility there too. But that was a heck of a catch by Drake London, and you know, Drake London getting more involved now, and Kyle Pitts as well. They're both getting more involved into the passing game, which is something that you need to see. And then you got the tight ends, obviously Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith. Van Jefferson also kind of caught a ball here for about 5 yards. And then you got Tyler Algier, who this is interesting too about how this game went. Bijan Robinson, who was their first round overall pick in this year's draft, did not play most of this game. He only got 1 carry for 3 yards, and that was basically it. According to what news anchor said and everything, they all said that Bijan was not feeling at his best and therefore he wasn't going to play. So Tyler Algier came in and he took over the game and what ended up being a Falcons, you know, victory here. But Tyler Algier was involved quite a bit, and I thought he played a pretty good game in this one. And then the Bucs, obviously Baker Mayfield, been playing his best football this year. That's no exaggeration right there. He's been playing the best. This was definitely, a very involved, team right here, the Bucs and Baker Mayfield, and how effective he's been this season. So that's been awesome to really see. So yeah, that's the Falcons. That's the Bucs there. 16-13 win for the Falcons. Good win for them. All right, so the next one we got is the Bears and the Raiders. I want to talk about that game because this game was definitely one of the headliners of this year, or at least for this week. So Justin Fields was out, obviously with a thumb injury. Everybody knows that. So he was out with a thumb injury, and this ended up being a very interesting turn to Tyson Bagent, who is a Division II quarterback in college. He was at least at Shepherd University, and that was impressive to really see a Division II quarterback playing in the pros. I don't think that's something that you see every day. That's definitely something that you do not see every day. And I thought that was amazing to really see as far as how that kind of came about. So this could mean one of two things for the Bears, or one of two things. So either one, Justin Fields is the problem and why this team hasn't won that many games, or the Bears just played another bad team. And I'm going to lean more towards the fact that the Bears they played against a very interesting team. The Raiders don't typically do well when they have to travel across the country to play a game of football. That's just usually how it is. In this particular case, that's what happened there. They ended up getting blown out. It was 30-12. It wasn't even close. But I thought the Raiders could have had some more involvement in this game. I thought they should have done some more things. I think starting Brian Hoyer was a not a very smart choice to make. I think you could have started Aiden O'Connell at the very beginning and see what he could have done. And he did better. I thought he did better than Brian Hoyer. I thought he was able to. I thought he made the offense made them look like they were having more of a spark than Brian Hoyer did. Brian Hoyer only mastered for 129 yards and 2 picks before he ended up getting benched for Aiden O'Connell. And I think for the rest of the season, at least, I think because we're going to be seeing more of one of these two quarterbacks for a good while here. And I think Aiden O'Connell is the better choice. So therefore, I think Aiden O'Connell should be the right now the starter for this team and see what you've got with him, because I don't, as much as I think Brian Hoyer is a good guy, I just don't see him being a starter for this team, or at least taking over for Jimmy Garoppolo if they're trying to push for a playoff run. As far as the running game goes, still inconsistent. Josh Jacobs still non-existent. But the passing game is still there. They've been pretty good. It's been better. Jacoby Myers, I think he's being more utilized than Davante Adams is, especially when it comes to like short intermediate passes, which is the offense that was designed for Jimmy Garoppolo this year. So I think Jacoby Myers is doing a pretty good job getting himself more involved into the game, catching those big time catches within like the middle of the field. And then obviously Davante Adams is always going to be Davante Adams, one of the best wideouts out there. And then you kind of saw different players getting more involved. You saw some like Trey Tucker was getting more involved, Hunter Renfrow for like the first time in like weeks. It feels like the tight ends are getting more involved. So overall, the offense seems to be clicking a little bit. They're trying to get themselves better, but I don't see them as like a top unit right now, or at least a top threat. Like there's not really Davante Adams should scare you, but if you don't have the quarterback that's going to throw a deep ball to Davante Adams, you're not going to be that scary of a team. And then you just kind of worry about more of covering Jacoby Myers. So, you know, that's how that game goes. But as for the Bears, they got their second win of the year. Tyson Bagent had a good start to his NFL season as an undrafted rookie. Deontay Foreman got himself involved in this game, rushed for 2 touchdowns, caught for a touchdown in the reception end. DJ Moore getting himself more and more involved, which is great to see. I think he's been definitely utilized a lot more into this offense in recent weeks than he was in the beginning portion. And I think he's only going to get better, and I think he's going to help the offense develop more as time goes on. So overall, a nice Bears victory, but also at the same time, you can't really say the Bears are good or bad yet until they face a good team, and that's, yeah, you know how that's all going to go down. So the Bears play the Chargers next week. That will be a game that will be quite interesting. It's a Sunday night football game. I don't know why that game doesn't get flexed out to an earlier afternoon time frame, but that'll be an interesting game to see. I think the Chargers still kind of win it, but I think the Bears are going to kind of keep things interesting if Benjamin plays the way that he did this past week. And I think the Bears can take advantage of a weak, overrated defense of the Chargers right now. And we'll talk about the Chargers in a little bit. The Browns. The Browns, man. Oh boy. What a wacky last couple of weeks that they've been having. First they go in and they beat San Fran, giving them their first loss of the year, 1917, and that was just pure, not luck, but I thought their defense played hardcore. This time around, yeah, the defense gave up a lot of big plays. They gave up a lot of points, but when it really mattered most, they were able to do just that. They were able to fumble the ball. Myles Garrett was like all over the place when he was playing against the Colts. It was impressive to see everything that he was doing. It was absolutely incredible with him being all over the field the way that he was. I was thoroughly impressed with the way that he played in this game. It was amazing to see. So I thought he had the best game of his career, or at least this season. I thought it was at least the best game of his season. The Browns defense has been pretty darn good. No other way around it. PJ Walker, I have to admit, PJ Walker had another good game against, a pretty decent team right now in the Colts, and they were able to beat them out by a point. That was without Deshaun Watson. Well, Deshaun Watson played this game, but very briefly until his injury kind of worsened, and that forced PJ Walker to get in there. But, I thought Walker had a pretty good game. Really thought he had a really good game in this game. The Colts also did too. I mean, I really think Gardner Minshew also played his best game of the season. We're going to see Gardner Minshew all of this season at least. But he's been playing good. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that he hasn't been good, because he's been absolutely amazing this year. Again, another game that he threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Was able to rush in for 2 touchdowns, 3 carries for 29 yards. Like, dude, this guy has been playing some nice football this year. Easily the best backup in the NFL. I think the guy can play in any kind of team or any kind of backup role when given the opportunity to. And I wish that Minshew would be a starter, but obviously that's not really someone that's not going to really happen right now. At least he's going to be a starter for this year, but it's a tough call there. But yeah, he's been playing some really good football. Jonathan Taylor also got back. The ground game is also getting their rhythm back. And also I got to talk about Josh Downs. Can we talk about him for a second? How good has Josh Downs been this season as a rookie? He's been absolutely incredible. And I think he's been more involved than what we've seen from Michael Pittman. I think he's more involved than he was than Alec Pierce. And then Jonathan Taylor getting involved there. Zach Moss, who's also been a pretty quality backup for Taylor this year. Yeah, I mean, I really think Josh Downs is proving to himself that he could legitimately be a number 1 starter for this team eventually. I think, there's a couple things that he has to work out a little bit. Michael Pittman still I would consider him more of that number 1 threat. But, with Alec Pierce as good of a slot receiver that he is, and then Josh Downs, when you give him that opportunity to do some really big plays, I think this is a really underrated receiving core. I really don't think enough people are really talking about or crediting of how much effectiveness that the wide receivers have had this year for this team. And passing the ball has been a lot better than what we thought we were going to see all of this season too. So, the Colts are, as I keep saying, they're a decent team. I really think they can be a team that could sneak up on you. Next week they're playing the Saints, and I think they have a really legitimate shot of going in there and beating the Saints. I really do. I don't see this really turning to be anything ugly. I just don't see this. I don't really see, you know, I see the Saints really are struggling mightily against how the Colts play. Obviously, I think it's going to be a huge struggle of how they play this team, the Saints. I don't think their offense is going to get going, and I think the Colts' run attack is going to be so much utilized that it's going to be absolutely crazy. So, uh, then the Browns go in next week. I don't remember exactly who the Browns play next week, but I know the Browns' defense is really, the last couple of weeks have been really saving them and helping them win games. They're up to their fourth win of the season. They'll play the Seahawks next week. That should be a really interesting game. The Seahawks, coming off of a 10-point win over Arizona. Um, and I think the Browns have an opportunity to be able to beat the Seahawks too. I think their defense is strong enough to be able to slow down and force turnovers from Geno Smith. So this will be an interesting game. That will be an interesting game, and the Colts and the Saints will be also another interesting game as well. So really looking forward to how the rest of these teams pan out. I think the Browns kind of getting hot at the right time defensively. They're winning. They're helping the team and the offense win some games, which is great to see. I think they continue with that. I really do. So defense does it again. Giants got themselves another victory, 14-7 over the Washington Commanders. Saquon Barkley looking like Saquon Barkley again. And then this time, no Daniel Jones. Again, you have Tyrod Taylor, who played his best game of the season. Last week was, not half bad, not half good, but could have been better. Held on to the ball for too long. But I think right now, at this point in the season right now, with the way of how things going, I kind of think you should really utilize Tyrod Taylor, seeing what you can do. I think he makes the offense look more productive. I think he's doing a better job of protecting the football because Tyrod is the kind of guy that's not going to make a lot of mistakes. He's very conservative. He's going to throw the ball when he really needs to, or he's going to run the ball when he needs to, or he has wide open spots. So I think he's a better game manager of the game of football than Daniel Jones is. So I feel like that right now I would see what Tyrod Taylor has for all of you and just go from there because I really think he's should be starting in this on this team right now. Then as for the Commanders, blew another game. Only lost this one 14-7. It's a game that they shouldn't have lost by like that. They had every opportunity to go down there and score in the red zone, and they never did. So the run game is still non-existent. I'm not a big fan of the way the run game has been this year. Sam Howell, another tough game for him after a good first couple of weeks. So I don't know. I think Washington's kind of on the hot seat right now, especially with Ron Rivera being there. I think they're in the hot seat. I think there's a lot of things you got to start questioning. When is Ron Rivera going to get fired? Obviously, is one. You also got to think about, like, is Sam Howell, you could probably use him another year, see what he can do, but if he's not your guy, then you just go ahead and draft a guy, or do you go in there right now and you take, tank for the rest of the year, or that sort of thing, and just hope and pray that you can get another solid quarterback in the first round. So, yeah, the Commanders are a mess. Their team is a mess. Their offense is a mess. Defense is a mess. They can't seem to get anything going, and they weren't able to do it or be able to beat a very bad Giants team. They just weren't able to muster through any of that. So, the Giants, we'll see how they do. They play the Jets next week, and the Commanders play the Eagles. So, both of these teams are going to be, playing some really tough competition next week, especially the Giants playing against that Jets defensive line, which is absolutely absurd. And crazy. I don't know if I would want to play against that defense. Their defense has been absolutely incredible. And their offense is kind of clicking. Maybe the defense for the Giants can kind of slow them down a little bit, but I don't know. The Giants have not been playing well all year, so I really wouldn't be surprised if the Giants lost to the Jets. And for the Commanders, who they play next week, they'll be playing against the Eagles. That could be a winnable game right there. They beat the Eagles in Philly last year, so I wouldn't be overly surprised if the Commanders came back in and they won the game against the Eagles and give them the second loss of the year and kind of put a damper on some things. but I also wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles kind of swept them this year. Just wouldn't be surprised about that. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say about both of these teams. Not great, not perfect, but you know, it is what it is. It's a game. So next up, we've got the Ravens. We got the Ravens. We've got the Detroit Lions. The Ravens, man, what a great game that they played on Sunday night. Not Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, excuse me. I really believe that this Ravens team right now, just by the way that they've been playing, watching Lamar Jackson, watching his wide receivers, this has to be the best season for the Ravens that they've had in a few years since their 14-2 season from 2019. They've been absolutely on a tear all season long. They've been absolutely dominating a lot of these games, and Detroit was like their biggest test. Didn't know how their defense was going to match up against their offense. We kind of thought this was going to be an interesting game. We thought Detroit was going to keep things close, but nah. The Ravens came in there, and they absolutely blew up the whole thing. They won this game in all three phases, and especially their offense. Their offense, man, Lamar Jackson, another awesome game from him. Mark Andrews catching a couple of touchdowns. Of course, he's always playing like a dog out there. It's crazy. Zay Flowers, love the addition of Zay Flowers that they got in the offseason and in the draft. That was awesome to see. He's been magnificent this year. And Odell Beckham Jr., hasn't really been that much involved, but again, a pretty good game for him overall. Gus Edwards also ran the ball well, got themselves a touchdown there. But yeah, this has been a really, really good Ravens team this year. As long as they can stay healthy, that's like the biggest thing. As long as the Ravens can stay healthy, they will go in there and they will get the best out of any team that they face against. I really personally believe right now, this is just my opinion, okay? I think they've been the most consistent. I think they've been the most interesting and the most fun to watch this entire season so far. I really have enjoyed with everything that the Ravens have done this season and watching them play because I think this is Lamar Jackson's best season that he's had. And like I said in last week's recap, when you watch Lamar Jackson and you see how he's evolved over the years since being drafted into the NFL, you can tell from year one he sat behind Joe Flacco, started the last several games of the season. Didn't know what you were going to get much out of him, but he comes into the next year, wins MVP, goes 14-2, went on that amazing run with the Ravens before they were shut down by the Tennessee Titans. The year after that, kind of fell down a little bit, but was getting even better statistically. The year after that, probably his worst year, but again, getting better and better and better. Then you watch last season, could have been better, but didn't have a lot of help on that offensive line. Didn't have enough help on the what do you call it, the wide receiver help of things. This year has been absolutely amazing for Lamar. So I'm happy to see Lamar actually finally have a nice season. If they could have won those couple of games, especially the Steelers game, this team could probably still be undefeated, and that's really no exaggeration. But they've really been the best AFC team so far. I think they're better than the Chiefs. I think they're better than the Bills. I think they're definitely better than the Bengals right now. I think they're better than Jacksonville. I think they're better than any of the other leading division teams right now in the AFC. I really do. They've been the most consistent. They've been the most hardcore, physical, and they've been doing everything that they've needed to do, and Lamar is happier than ever. So this was a great game for Lamar. This was a big test for him to see if he could win kind of like high-profile games like this, which the Lions probably isn't really a high-profile team, but nonetheless, they're still a very quality team. As Dan Campbell said in the press conference, didn't say it exactly in this way, but the Ravens whooped their butts. That's really what it comes down to. They whooped their butts. Lamar did everything that he wanted to do. He ran the ball. He passed the ball efficiently. He did everything that he needed to do. He was a magician in this game. So I really would be concerned about the Ravens. I think moving forward, I think if you're a team that is pushing for a playoff run and you need to get past the Ravens first, or you need to get past a couple of teams. But when you face the Ravens, it's probably not going to be a very fun game for you, because I think Lamar is really going to be up to that standard again, where he's going to win a lot of these games, and he's going to make life very hard on everybody because of what he can do. His running ability, his passing ability, everything about him. He's just an absolute freak of nature when it comes to athletics. Absolutely crazy. So, great game for Lamar. The Lions will need to draw up on the field on the board next week and see what they need to do differently, because they're going to need to go. They're going to need to go into next week, playing. I forget who they're playing next week. I know the Ravens are playing. Who are the Ravens playing? The Seahawks. No, I'm sorry. Next week they're playing against. Let me see. I'm sorry, guys. They're playing against the Cardinals. It should be a winnable game right there. Should win that game, but the Cardinals have been tough, and the Lions have to play the Raiders, so they need to bounce back for that next week. So, yeah, that's really what it comes down to. So, that's what I want to say on that. Next, we got the Patriots and the Bills, man. The Bills. Oh, boy, this was not a fun game to watch. I don't think, as a Bills fan, it was not fun to see, or it was not pretty at all. And credit to New England, man. Mac Jones had his best game of the season. Defensively, also played the best of their season so far, despite giving up 25 there in the end. But, man, the Bills lose to the Patriots. Are we really that surprised that the Bills lost to the Patriots? Yes and no. Yes, in one case, because the Patriots are bad right now offensively, and the fact that the Bills gave up 29 points against them is crazy. But not really, because this is Bill Belichick. This was what the NFL wanted. This is what the NFL wanted to see, as far as Bill Belichick getting his 300th career win as a coach. And that's what he did against his arch rival in the Bills. But Mac Jones, what a game he had. So I don't know if any Patriots fans or anybody that's a football fanatic like I am, I don't know how much they're willing to say that Mac Jones is still good. But I'm telling you right now, Mac Jones has not been the sole reason of why this team has not been playing well offensively. He's just not the reason. And, for him to come in and have a nice game, have good play calling, and go in there and beat a divisional rival the way that he did is great. There's no other way around it. And Mac Jones is still good. Mac Jones is the guy for this team. He is very good when you're giving him time, when the offensive line can give him time, when his receivers can actually catch the ball. Unlike last week, they couldn't do that against the Raiders at all. And their defense, in my opinion, is a little bit worse than the Bills' defense. But maybe on paper right now, maybe the Raiders' defense could be better than the Bills right now because of Matt Milano. Tre'Davious White is out on that side of the ball. And that also really does hurt a lot. But yeah, the Bills' defense definitely sold them in this game 100% at the end. The Bills had that comeback. They were struggling mightily. Josh Allen threw that first pick to Jabril Peppers. I will admit, yes, I love Josh Allen, but that wasn't the prettiest ball that he could have thrown it to. He threw it to Dawson Knox. It got picked off by Jabril Peppers, who's been all over the field, who's been really stepping up in this defense after losing Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez, at least, for a long period of time. So I thought Jabril Peppers did pretty well in this game. And offensively, like I said, Mac Jones did everything that he could. Offensively for the Bills, Josh Allen, again, it was the Josh Allen show. I mean, you can't expect to win football games all the time if you're going to give the ball all the time to Josh Allen to throw the ball to, because when you don't have a consistent run game, teams are going to figure that out. The defense is going to figure that out. They're not going to worry about it this much, and they know what Josh Allen is capable of doing, and that's running the ball. He can run the ball. He has a cannon of an arm. He's one of the reasons why he's the top 5 quarterback in this league. But when you ask him to do too much, turnover worthy, he's going to turn the ball over eventually. But you also got to build that consistent run game too to give his arm a rest. Because if you can't build up on a consistent run game, you're going to be forced to pass every single time, and that's not going to work for you in every way. And knowing the Bills in terms of their injuries right now, this is the worst time right now for them to be losing to these kind of games right now, because that could also hurt chances for when it comes down to playoffs, everything. So, yeah, and I will say the Patriots defense again. Like I said, Jabril Peppers has been stepping up for this defense, and they were getting pressure on Josh Allen all game long. Like, every play I watched in this game, I feel like every time that Buffalo had the possession of the ball, Allen was pressured every single time. It felt like, especially in those play action passes where they know that he's most effective there, and he's going to throw the ball down the field or he's going to run with it. And they were stuffing him and really, pressuring him every single time to that right side of the field, which was a favorite for Allen to throw to every time, which normally is a favorite for Allen to throw to the right, outside of the pocket. So, yeah, this was a crazy game. I'm happy the Patriots won. I'm glad they came out on top. But Buffalo, man, is very concerning right now. I don't think enough people are talking about it. I don't know if enough people really notice this. But, man, the Bills have to get it figured out. They got to go up against next week they got to go up and they got to play against a really quality opponent, and they got to play against the Bucs on Thursday Night Football. So that's going to be another hardcore defense that they're going to have to face at their home stadium. Offensively, I think they should be better, but don't be surprised if the Bucs came out on top of this game. Don't be surprised, because I feel like the Bucs can pull off that upset, knowing that there's so much problems on the defensive side for the Bills in terms of injury and everything. But you're also looking at another perspective too, where you know it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard for them to do that. So yeah, this was a good game, really good game for the Patriots. Great job by Bill Belichick getting all that pressure. They definitely did watch a lot of film. You can tell they know the Bills very well, so that's why it's not really that much of a surprise victory, because they know the Bills. They play them all the time, so they're very familiar with what McDermott wants to do and what Allen wants to do. They study up on that film year in, year out, because they're the most familiar foe for them. All right, next, the Seattle Seahawks defense gets the job done against Arizona. The offense for the Seahawks, it's a little bit concerning, considering more so Geno Smith's health. It seems like a lot of times, every time that I've seen him play this year, it always seems like it has not been very easy for him. He's been making mistakes, prone mistakes in the pocket, throwing the ball out of, trying to throw it in harm's way. But running the ball, they were efficient and they were fine. Passing the ball, they kind of got themselves together. But, again, not exactly the greatest either. And the Cardinals are in a rebuild mode right now, but they kept it very close, as I thought they would have. But they didn't win against the spread in that game, and +7. So, overall, Seahawks, their offense is a little bit concerning. Consistency of passing the ball. But running the ball, they've been effective. I think they've been effective all year with that. But that's how I feel about the offense of the Seahawks. Next is the Rams and the Steelers. I have no idea, and I will be truly honest with you. I watched a lot of this game along with the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Broncos and the Packers this weekend on Sunday. And let me tell you, I have no idea how the Rams. I have no idea how they lost this game to the Steelers. Because the Rams offense, yeah, Cooper Kupp was taken out. This was Cooper Kupp's worst game of the season, obviously. But I can't believe that the Rams lost this game. Like, how did you lose this game? You're up 17-10, turn the ball over in crucial times, give the ball to two of their running backs, Jaylen Warren, who I think needs to get more touches, and I think he will after this game. And they have Najee Harris, who's been overrated all season long. Then you got, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. That definitely helps in the passing game. But running the ball, man, has been wildly inconsistent this year. But, man, I have no idea how the Rams lost this game. They had this game won. And Kenny Pickett really got lucky with that quarterback sneak right there. If he was not able to push that the shoulder down, he would not have made it. Definitely would not have made it. So this was definitely crazy to see how the Rams lost this game. I have no idea. If anybody can please tell me what happened in this game, and break it down in your own words, let me know, because I have no idea how the Rams could lose this game to a bad offense, especially bad OC of Matt Canada for one, but to a bad offense. I don't understand how that could happen. The Chiefs destroy the Chargers. They defeat them. It was 31-17. As I'm going to say every single week, when they lose, the Chargers lose a game where they could be winning, they could win, where they give up so many yardage to a quarterback and a tight end. I'm always going to keep saying, fire Brandon Staley, okay? Yeah, fire Brandon Staley. He is not the guy. But the Chiefs, over 400 yards of passing yet again against the Chargers. Why am I not surprised? Justin Herbert threw for 259 in the air, one touchdown, two interceptions. Keenan Allen was involved in this game, kind of, but more so Joshua Palmer was more involved as that number one guy for this team, for this game at least. Austin Eckler, kind of slow. It's kind of a slow start for him again after coming off of that injury. So not been the greatest. Joshua Kelly got a touchdown in. Thought he looked better than Eckler, to be honest with you. But Eckler could get better throughout the year. I think he will. I think he will get himself back on there. It's just the fact of the matter that he played against the Chiefs. And then what was interesting about this game, when watching this game, was obviously about Taylor Swift. Everybody knows about Taylor Swift. Everybody knows that she's dating Travis Kelce and everything like that. Like, that's like big news right now. I don't really care. I don't really know why that's such a big deal that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are dating. I don't care personally. But that needs to really stop, honestly. And seeing her and Patrick Mahomes' wife like together and doing like that weird high five stuff that they were doing in the booth when watching this game. Yeah, like, I don't know. To me, it was kind of cringy. I'm not going to lie. That was very cringy stuff right there. So that's all I really want to say on that. But I don't really know why the NFL needs to make such a big deal about Taylor Swift being at every single Chiefs game. Like, honestly, I really could care less. I really could. But, yep, the Chiefs find a way to expose the Chargers yet again. I thought the Chargers could have... I thought they were kind of keeping themselves in the game at least for that short period of time. But they blew it like they normally do. They blew it on their defense. Their defense gave up way too much yardage at the end again, like they did like they did in the passing game. Gave up a lot of screen passes to Isaiah Pacheco. Travis Kelce. They were very bad against Travis Kelce. They gave up 179 yards to a tight end. Marquez Valdez-Scantling got involved in this game. They gave up a big time yardage on them. Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco again with the screen pass there was crazy to see them give it up that easily. So overall, that's how I felt about this game right here. Like, the Chargers did a good job of containing them for the first half, but then they fell apart again in the second half, which honestly at this point really isn't surprising anymore. And wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers missed out on the playoffs because of coaching. Excuse me. I have something stuck in my throat. Hold on one second, please. Sorry. Hold on one second. Sorry. Sorry, my throat's getting a little dry. I've been talking for a while, so that's kind of where I'm getting it from. So I do apologize for that. So, talk about this game right here, the Packers and the Broncos, which I thought was more intriguing than watching the Chargers lose again to the Chiefs or seeing the Rams lose to the Steelers. Like, I thought this game was very, very interesting in terms of how this game turned out to be. So, the Broncos were in control for most of this game. This was another tough game for Jordan Love and company. I thought defensively they played, pretty good. Honestly, I thought the defense of the Broncos played pretty good. Packers defense played well too. So, I thought Russell Wilson was involved and was doing pretty well there. They were able to run the ball a little bit. Russell Wilson was able to make some plays in his running ability and throwing ability too. So, it was a good offensive game for the Broncos. I know they only scored 19 points, but they did pretty good. But it's another game that Jordan Love threw away. I'm sorry. This was the same thing that happened 2 weeks ago when they played against the Raiders. it was an ugly game yet again. They struggled to score points. They gave up points at the most crucial moments, and that's why they lost the game. And Jordan Love threw interceptions left and right, and he threw this interception to the wrong to a guy that was like right there, and that was to Lock at the end. Like it was crazy to really see how it kind of all ended similar to what happened against the Raiders 2 weeks ago. So I don't know what the Packers are up to, and they got to go up. They got to go back home, and they got to play Minnesota next week, and that's not gonna fly in terms of how that game is gonna go because they're gonna need to get this thing figured out. Like if they're supposed to be a team that wants to, make the playoffs, if they want to kind of make like that dark horse run, they got to be consistent. And they got to start winning some games here. Otherwise, it's going to be another long season for them. So this was definitely a loss that shouldn't have happened. The Broncos are not a very good team, but I thought the Broncos, this was one of their better games that they played this season. They kept it close. The defense held up and played pretty good in this game. But yeah, their defense has not been good all year until this week. So yeah, other than that though, I mean, the Packers, they still can make some plays, but they can still win some games. But they got to get themselves together before it gets to be too late. And the Broncos are kind of dead in the water, so I don't really see the Broncos making the playoffs this year. But maybe they could be starting to get more competitive. We'll see. They got to go play against the Chiefs next week at home. And that won't be an easy game to play against. As you all know, Patrick Mahomes is undefeated against Denver. And I wouldn't be surprised if Denver, blew that game against Mahomes too, but kept it very close. So, the next game, we're going to talk about the Eagles exposing the Dolphins as being overrated. So, do I think the Dolphins are overrated? Besides offensively, besides Tyreek Hill, yeah, I would say they're pretty overrated. Offensively, they're incredible. But when they have to go up against good teams like the Eagles, like the Bills and things like that, they lost to two quality teams, and both of those games were blowouts. Well, the Eagles game on paper was only a two-touchdown margin, but when you look at it, really, the Eagles were in control that entire game. The only reason why the Dolphins kind of came back into that game, because I felt that the Eagles should have destroyed them by a lot more than what they won by, because of Jalen Hurts throwing that pick six. And that's really what kept them in the game. Tua was also playing very soft, not his best game of the night. Tyreek Hill had obviously he always has an amazing game, so without Tyreek Hill, I don't know what this team would be without him, but definitely makes them look more explosive. The run game was non-existent. They really didn't do a good job running the ball at all on Sunday night. Defensively, they were giving up a big chunk of plays like the Eagles normally like to do. They like to drain the clock down. They like to manage the clock and going in their favor. So they struggled in that game, in that department there, the Dolphins, on defense at least. So I do believe the Dolphins are overrated. I think their offense is great. I think their offense is explosive. But defensively, they don't really do anything that wows me yet. Vic Fangio, who is the defensive coordinator for this team, is a good coach, but I feel like he's been playing a lot of very soft coverages for this defense, and I just don't see that. That doesn't work against really good teams like the Eagles. Didn't work against the Bills, didn't work for the Eagles. It's not going to work against every other team that they have to play up against. Don't think it's going to work against the Patriots next week, because the Patriots gave them a hard time last time they played. I don't think it's going to work for the Jets, playing that soft coverage at least. But yeah, this game right here, the Eagles definitely won this game, and they definitely should have won by a lot more than what they did. And then finally, last night's game, Monday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings at the San Francisco 49ers at the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings won this game 22-17. This game could have been a lot more point-worthy for the Vikings, but, fact of the matter is the Vikings won only by, 5 points. They won that game, and it was a great win for the Vikings. I have to give all the credit in the world to Kirk Cousins. I got to give all the credit to Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator, Jordan Addison, anybody that got themselves involved in this game on Monday night. It was great. I thought the Vikings had their best game of the season. Kirk Cousins. I need everybody to start putting some respect on Kirk Cousins, man, because this was definitely his most explosive game of the season, or his best game manager game kind of a way for this night, last night. 378 yards, 35 for 45, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Both of those touchdown passes went to Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson was involved. Brandon Powell got involved. KJ Osborne was kind of slow in the beginning, but kind of picked back up. The run game looked a little bit better, but I think Cam Akers looked. I think they made their team look a little bit more explosive in the ground game than Alexander Madison did. Madison only carried eight times for 39 yards and no touchdowns in this game, and really wasn't heavily involved in the passing game either. Only got 2 receptions for 3 yards. So, Cam Akers was more explosive than that. The first reception he received, he ran up for 30 yards. That was crazy. So the Vikings did an excellent job, and I thought their defense was definitely the best defense that we saw this season from Minnesota. I thought they played excellent coverage. I thought they really slowed down the Niners. They were able to play a lot of coverage. They were getting a lot of blitz in as well to get pressure on Purdy. And San Fran really just didn't play a very good game. That's really what it comes down to. They didn't play well. Brock Purdy had a couple of good plays, but this was not his best game. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions for 272 yards for 21 passing attempts in comparison to 30. Their wide receivers were getting involved. They were doing okay. Christian McCaffrey, you can tell that he was injured. He didn't look his absolute best in this game, but, at a rushing touchdown, reception touchdown, you can't beat that. There's no way you can beat that. And then you got George Kittle, who in the beginning wasn't getting involved that much until like the second half, but, he helped get the job done. Brandon Ayuk was getting involved. Jawan Jennings was getting involved. So they were trying to do a lot of different things without their best wide receiver of Deebo Samuel. So they were trying to maneuver and work around that. And defensively, they were very sluggish on defense. They were very slow. They didn't really seem like they were alerted and they were ready to go. They looked very sluggish. They looked like they were kind of all over the place. They were in skirmishes going on. There was a lot of different things that was going on in this particular game that definitely was worth noting about as a coach and as a film analysis of football. So, yeah, the Niners, I thought this was definitely I thought this game was, kind of similar to what we saw against the Browns last week. Jake Moody, looking like he's also injured too. So they're kind of struggling with the injury department there for some key players. I still think they're a good team. I think they're still one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL right now. But they just got to, pull themselves together. They got to go up against Cincinnati and play them next week. That's not going to be an easy game. Obviously, Joe Burrow and those receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Irv Smith. It's going to be a tough one. Going to be a really tough one there. So San Fran will need to prepare, and they need to get themselves ready to go and watch their film and see what they do. The Vikings go up against the Packers next week. That won't be an easy game either, but that could be another game for the Vikings to come out on top. This could be their time right now where they could be reaching at their peak, and they could be starting to win some games. They could be almost at their peak level. They could win some of these games towards the end of the season. They could play and beat, the Packers next week. I think it's very possible that they could. So, never know. Anything could happen. So, that's how I feel about week 7. It was definitely an interesting week. It definitely was a week to kind of remember and everything. But, obviously it was not an easy week. It was definitely an upset kind of a week for a lot of different teams that was going on. With the Patriots beating the Bills, that was an upset there. The Giants beating the Commanders, another slight upset. The Vikings beating the 49ers, an upset. So there were a lot of underdogs that came in this week, and they were able to win a lot of those games. So what was your honest opinion on this week's recap? What did you guys think about week 7? How did your team do? Let me know in the comments down below. Before you do all that, Please be sure to drop a like on this video if you've not done so already. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button to help the channel grow, to be bigger and better than what it is already, and hit the notification bell so that way you guys can always be intact of every time that I post new content here on JP Football Fanatics. So, with that being said, this is your boy James saying thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.